Make sure you got 3 of those on your notes. Go back one. Remember, you had to pick 3 out of these and put them down in the middle, towards the bottom of page 10. Next one. All right. Marx says, let's do this. Let's overthrow the bourgeoisie capitalists. Now think of that, like in class. Like, we've had it with Chandler. Let's get rid of him. That's kind of what Marx is calling for. And he wants them to be replaced with communists. Now, he doesn't want to do it violently. He just says, let's put a new system. And this is what he says, let's set up. Communism. This is your word. I'm going to read it. You put it in your own words. A government in which property is owned by the nation instead of individuals. Each citizen works for the common benefit. So please make sure you put that in your own words. Something like, I don't know. Government owns everything but not the people. So everybody works together to make things better. Yeah, that's kind of nice. We'll do that one. Alright, well, let's go back. Don't want to freak out yet. Make sure you get that down. Communism, in your own words. Let's go to page 11. Now, that actually doesn't sound bad. In fact, the first rule of being a child is what? Like, don't throw rocks. No, wait, back up. First one was don't talk to strangers. Second one was don't throw rocks. Now, the third rule is you're always supposed to share, right? And communism seems to be built on government-controlled sharing. It doesn't sound bad. But it's weird because when you hear the word communism, you usually sound, oh, that's a bad word. Now, do you know why? Well, one of the main reasons is there are 2 parts of communism that really disturb people. Here you go. 1, no religion. Marx saw religion as a bourgeoisie tool of propaganda to keep the proletariat weak and without power. So you're thinking, how could the Bible possibly brainwash people? Well, this is what Marx would say. He said, look at the Beatitudes, one of the most popular scriptures. Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the meek. Well, Marx would say that's just a tool that rich people come up with to keep poor people happy. And I guess you could read it that way if you're Karl Marx. Here you go. Here's some examples from Proverbs. Better is the poor man, but the poor hath understanding. That's good. We already did Jesus' sermon. Blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek. Here's another one. Even the birth of Jesus, he could point this out. And he laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Marx would see the Bible itself probably as a tool to keep poor people happy being poor. Okay? Kind of a different approach than you are probably used to. Other disturbing aspect of communism? Now, I don't want to freak you out too bad. What you're probably seeing or not seeing right there is SpongeBob SquarePants, their version of China. Now, what's so disturbing about that? Well, that version of SpongeBob is supposed to point out that one thing that communism does is really seem to limit what you're allowed to do as far as entertainment. Okay? There are no liberal arts as far as literature, music, and drama unless they express the ideals of communism. In other words, there would be no SpongeBob unless SpongeBob was specifically about how can you be a good worker. You couldn't read or listen to music. You couldn't read any books or listen to music unless they seemed to point towards how can we build up communism. So think of everything that's fun revolving around communism. So that freaks people out sometimes just as much as the idea of no religion. Okay? Those should be your 2 disturbing aspects. One more time. First, no religion. Second, entertainment or liberal arts have to deal with communism. Kind of freaky. Alright. So here we go. Climax. This is actually a line from the Communist Manifesto. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Let the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. That's kind of hostile, I think. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Workers of the world, unite! So you can tell the wording here is really strong. Let's come together and overthrow the bourgeoisie. So following action, here you go. If you were a bourgeoisie, remember that, the rich, powerful? How would you respond if people were sending this out amongst the poor? Let's overthrow the rich. Well, this is what the bourgeoisie did. Some business people and politicians realized that Marx was definitely right about one thing, that they were outnumbered by an angry and potentially powerful working class. If you've seen A Bug's Life, at the end when the ants figure out that they can take out the grasshoppers, similar theory. There are much more proletariats than there are bourgeoisie. Now, they suddenly started listening to the problems of the workers in the lower classes. That's probably smart. The smart business people and politicians said, we should probably start listening to the poor. Now, out of those nations, this is what happened. They passed laws regulating wages, so you have to pay them something decent. They regulate hours. You can't work a bajillion hours, but you can still, work several. Workers gain the right to form unions and negotiate their contracts. Ooh, look, they get some rights. And public schools, get this, public schools are actually formed to teach children about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In other words, one of the results of this story is you right now in a public school. One way to get kids out of a factory is by opening up schools to teach them how to become good little capitalists. Okay? But still, that's where school comes from. Alright? I believe you're supposed to have 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there you go. Just put them in your own words. Alright, when you're ready, let's go on. Resolution, how did it turn out? Well, communists form 2 groups, or communism splits into 2 groups. First, you have the communists. That makes sense. Those are the people who fight for the violent overthrow of the bourgeoisie and any government that supports it. So keyword here, violent overthrow of the bourgeoisie. That's communism. So we're going to take them out and we're going to do it violently. Now the good news is that takes care of it pretty fast most of the time. Bad news is it's violent, which, some people frown upon. The other movement, the other group of communism is socialists. Those are the people who fight for workers' rights through peaceful legislative reform. So they call for a gradual decline in the bourgeoisie, and they want to redistribute the wealth and property, and they call it socialism. So those are your last ones. Communism, put in your own words. Socialism, put in your own words. Remember, this is peaceful legislative reform, or peaceful change through law. And they say, look, the type of government we're going to set up is what we call socialism. Hey, not bad on paper, right? Well, we're going to get to the rest of the story. But so far, here you go. This is the last part. You don't need to write it down, but please listen. In nations that do not ignore Marx, first, if you listen to Marx, this is what happened to your country. Workers get some rights and power. Good. And the owners get to be alive and in power. They didn't get killed by the poor. That's good news. But in the nations that ignored Marx and said, forget this communism stuff, we're going to do it our own way, capitalist way, the workers get more and more hateful and resentful, and they're willing to do anything to change their lives. Anything. Now the owners remain wealthy and happy, and they're like, look, we're going to be in power forever. But you know what happens when people, lots of people get angry enough for a long, long time. Dun, 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 dun. And that's why next day, we'll put this up for you. You get the fall of Tsarist Russia and the rise of the USSR. This country is going to be completely overthrown by the proletariats. That's right. And they're going to set up their own system that is completely different based on Marx's Communism Manifesto. Okay? That's part 1. Hope you got it all. Feel free to go back, pause, fast forward, rewind. It should all be there for you. Alright? Good luck. Goodbye.